Have you noticed a subtle fatigue that settles in the spirit? It is not born of anger, nor of hatred. It flows from a place most would call good. It is the constant turning toward others for warmth, a gentle bending of the self so that everyone else may feel comfortable. On the surface, it appears as kindness, a soft and endless river. But when this softness comes from a place of fear, the fear of a ripple, the fear of the void, it is a betrayal of the riverbed itself. To live from your source, you must cease being soft where stillness and strength are asked of you. There is a quiet poison that seeps into the soul. It does not cry out. It makes no sound. It works slowly, a sweet-tasting potion offered with a smile. It is not malice. It is the need to be a calm sea for every boat, to offer a placid smile when a storm rages within, to say, yes, when your own life current is pulling you toward, no. It is the bending of the willow so often that it forgets the memory of standing tall. This accommodating nature seems like a virtue, yet its roots are often found in the soil of fear. The fear of being cast out, of the disharmony of a single, honest note. But a life guided by fear is a life of waiting. You were not born to wait. You were born to flow. True compassion is not a reed that bends to every wind. Real compassion has a core of stillness. The mountain does not apologize for its peaks. The ocean does not quiet its tides to appease the shore. Yet, we walk through life making ourselves smaller for the comfort of others. If your shape is constantly shifting to please the eyes of another, that is not connection. It is a performance in a theater of ghosts. You lose the frequency of your own truth when you place the echoes of others above your inner silence. The more you offer a yes that is not born of your own spirit, the more you dissolve into a fog you no longer recognize. You are not here on this earth to be a pleasing reflection in the eyes of all who pass. That is not your dharma, your sacred duty. You are here to be a fire, to be a river, to be a voice that speaks from the earth upon which you stand. To quiet your voice, to smooth over your truth, to apologize for the space you occupy. This is not humility. It is the slow act of erasing yourself from the book of life. The world will not hand you a certificate permitting you to be real. This permission is an inner temple, one you must build yourself. It is better to be misunderstood for standing in your own ground than to be celebrated for living on borrowed land. Real connection, real inner quiet, real presence, they blossom in the moment you stop seeking them from outside your own being. There is a deep misunderstanding of what love truly is. Love is not a well that allows itself to be drained to dust. Love is not a path with no end. Love, when it flows from a clear source, has sacred banks. It knows where to flow and where to be still. It knows how to protect its own source. Without these banks, love becomes a swamp of sacrifice. And sacrifice made without awareness will always curdle into resentment. You cannot pour from a vessel that is empty. Your life force is a sacred water. Preserve it for the soil that is truly yours to nurture. When you consistently accept what feels like a stone in your heart, when you meet disrespect with silence, when you shrink so that another may expand without grace, you are not walking a path of nobility. You are inviting another to lose their own way. There is no virtue in allowing a toxic seed to flourish in the garden of your silence. By protecting what is untrue with a soft smile, you are allowing the dis-ease to spread. At times, the most spiritual action is to turn and walk away, to speak a quiet truth, or to say no with the stillness of a winter lake. Strength is not the storm. Strength is not the thunder. It is not a forward push. It is presence, silent, rooted, unmoving. Others may not always welcome your strength, for it reminds them of the ground they have lost, but they will feel it. In a world of endless noise, those who are anchored in their own quiet truth carry a power that needs no announcement. Be that, you can have a heart as soft as morning mist and still hold boundaries as clear as a mountain range. You can be kind without allowing your home to be a marketplace. These are not opposites. They are two wings of the same bird. They are balance. There is always a choice. In every breath, in every encounter, you are either choosing the illusion of comfort or the reality of your own being. You are choosing to be a pleasing echo or a clear voice. You are choosing the momentary quiet of avoidance or the eternal peace of truth. If you continue to choose softness to evade discomfort, you will build a life of quiet longing. But if you choose to stand in your own truth, even when your legs tremble, even when the path becomes solitary, you will finally understand what it means to live. Not as a reaction to the world, not from a place of fear, but consciously, with a strength, with a depth, and with a peace that can never be taken from you, for it was never given by another. In this life, many find themselves in a constant dance of adjustment, trying to match the rhythm of those around them. They offer a smile when their heart is a stone. They nod in agreement when their spirit resists. And their yes is an echo of another's desire. This may wear the mask of kindness, but its roots are in fear, the fear of judgment, of loneliness, of being the one note that is out of tune. This need to please becomes a silent vow where you trade the raw gold of your own being for the fleeting approval of others. This is not a harmless act. It is not mere politeness. It is a slow chiseling away at the very foundation of who you are. Each time you silence your inner knowing for another's ease, you push your own soul deeper into the shadows. You become a reflection in a pool of water, showing others what they wish to see, but losing the substance of who you are. Over time, the performance and the performer merge, and you forget where the costume ends and your skin begins. When you live only to make the world around you comfortable, your life becomes a stage. You are not living, you are acting. Your words are not drawn from your own well. They are lines learned to avoid friction. Your choices are not guided by inner wisdom, but by a constant worry of disapproval. This is not peace. This is a quiet torment where the ache is invisible to others, but it is your constant companion. Truth does not bend to make itself comfortable in another's house. It simply is, firm, still, without apology. You can choose to stand with it, or you can run, trying to please every face you meet. But understand this: your pleasing is a thirsty task that never ends. No matter how much you give, there will still be opinions, judgments, dissatisfactions. The great tragedy of this path is that in the process of trying to please everyone, you lose the one person whose trust you truly need: yourself. Your voice grows faint, your choices become blurry, and your life's purpose is forgotten. Your life is no longer your own. Freedom begins in the moment you stop the performance. When you speak your truth with the quiet presence of a mountain. When you say no without the residue of guilt. When you no longer fear another's discomfort with your clarity. In that moment, you reclaim your ground in the world. You begin to move from your own center. Life starts to feel real again. Decisions feel aligned. Silence is no longer a heavy blanket, but a peaceful emptiness. So if you find yourself endlessly trying to be what others desire, pause, take one breath, and ask the quiet question: who am I beneath all these masks? When you cease pleasing and begin simply being, you will feel a great weight dissolve. Your soul does not crave applause. It craves truth. It craves stillness. It asks you to live not as a reflection of the world, but as the source of light you were always meant to be. You were not born to walk through this world on silent feet, constantly checking if the light you carry disturbs another's shadow. Yet, so many make themselves smaller each day, not from a place of humility, but from fear. Fear of being seen, of being rejected, of being a truth that is inconvenient. They quiet their own song. They dilute their own color. They hide the unique shape of their soul, all because they do not wish to cause a stir. In doing this, they begin to live a life that is not their own. They become a distant echo of themselves, forever seeking permission to fully exist. There is no higher path in apologizing for the truth of your being. To have clarity does not make you difficult. To hold standards does not make you arrogant. To draw a sacred circle around your energy is not a sign of a closed heart. These are not flaws. They are the language of self-honor. Yet we have been taught that to be welcomed, we must bend, agree, and keep a false peace at the expense of our inner harmony. But peace that is purchased with your silence is not peace at all. It is a quiet prison. To live for the approval of others is to chase a horizon that is always moving. No matter how you adjust your sails, someone will find fault with your course. And as you spend your life trying not to disturb, not to offend, not to disappoint, you will inevitably disappoint the one person who matters most. You silence your own truth, not because it is wrong, but because you fear the world will not accept it. But what of your own acceptance? Why does another's comfort weigh more than your own integrity? You must understand this. To live unapologetically is not an act of defiance. It is an act of returning. Returning to the one you were before the world told you to be smaller, before shame taught you to be invisible, before comparison taught you that it was safer to copy than to create. To live with courage is to reclaim what was always yours, your voice, your clarity, your inner fire. And this fire is not to be hidden in shame. Fire provides warmth. Fire provides light. And fire burns away all that is not real. There will always be those who see your strength and call it ego, who see your boundaries and call it hardness, who hear your truth and call it arrogance. Let them. Their perception is a reflection of their own world, not a measure of your path. Your responsibility is to be aligned with the truth that flows through you, not with the stories they tell about it. You are not here to dim your light so that others may feel brighter. Life is not a contest to see who can disappear most gracefully. Stop walking into a space and wondering if you are welcome. Speak without endlessly editing the words of your soul. Breathe without asking permission. Exist without the burden of guilt. When you do this, you do not become unkind. You become real. The performance ends. And that is when you begin to feel free, even if your freedom makes others uneasy. Their unease is a reflection of their own cage, not your liberation. So stop apologizing for taking up space. Stand firmly in your truth. Speak it with a soft voice but a strong heart. Let your very presence be a statement, not of ego, but of embodiment. The world does not need more pleasing, empty smiles. It needs the presence of real, awake, courageous souls who refuse to live in the quiet corners. Be one of them. Be you fully. Many confuse love with a river that has no banks, an endless pouring out, a constant availability that knows no limits. They believe that to truly care is to always say yes, to always be present for another, to never turn away. But love without a sacred container is not love. It is a slow leaking of the self, dressed in the robes of devotion. If your act of loving leaves you feeling like a barren desert, then it is not love you are practicing. It is unconscious sacrifice. When you allow others to take more energy than you can offer, when you allow disrespect to repeatedly cross your threshold, you are not being loving. You are being untrue to the life force within you. True love does not mean permission for all things. In fact, to love another deeply often requires you to say no. It means you recognize the sacred flame within yourself and refuse to let it be extinguished by the winds of another's unhealed wounds. A boundary is not a wall of rejection. It is not a punishment. It is not coldness. A boundary is a clear and gentle seeing. It is the wisdom to know where you end and another begins. It is an act of supreme honesty. It says, this is the space I can hold. This is what I cannot. Without this clarity, even the most beautiful connections turn toxic, as one soul begins to disappear beneath the weight of another's needs. Many fear that setting these clear boundaries will push others away, but the truth is, those who honor your light will also honor the vessel that holds it. Boundaries do not sever connection, they protect it from turning into entanglement. Without them, resentment takes root, and resentment is a silent poison that turns the sweet water of love into bitterness. Love is not about being a constant solution for another's pain. It is not about fixing another. It is about presence, not servitude. When you are clear about your own limits, you create a space for honest meeting. You allow both people to stand as whole beings, not as clinging vines. You must protect your inner energy as you would a sacred temple. Not every hand that reaches for your light is clean. Not every voice that calls your name does so from a place of clarity. You have the right and the deep responsibility to choose who is given access to your time, your heart, your mind. This is not the way of the selfish heart. This is the way of the wise heart. This is how you ensure that the water from your well is not spilled upon the sand, but is given to soil where it can truly nourish. Real love honors the vessel. It does not ask you to break yourself into pieces as an offering. When you love from a place of wholeness, you do not just give, you give wisely. And in that balance, love becomes not a weight, but a grace. There is a false idea that to be firm is to be hard, that to be clear is to be unkind. We confuse assertiveness with aggression and strength with a lack of heart. But firmness is not about overpowering another. It is about standing in your own space with a quiet clarity that needs no apology for its existence. When you speak your truth from a place of stillness, you are not starting a conflict, you are clearing a fog. Truth has a unique quality. It does not need to shout. It does not tremble with insecurity. It simply stands. Many avoid this firmness because they fear the reaction it will stir in others. They fear the discomfort it may cause. But in their effort to shield others from a moment of unease, they abandon their own truth. They forget that avoiding a clear word does not protect people. It often keeps them lost in their own confusion. Sometimes the most deeply loving act is to offer someone a truth they do not want to hear, but that their soul needs to understand. Your firmness may be the first clear mirror they have ever looked into. In a world saturated with noise and pleasing lies, clarity is a sacred offering. People are drowning in vague promises, polite deceptions, and the heavy silence of unspoken resentments. When you speak from a place of firmness, you cut through this mist. You give others, and yourself, something real to stand on. They may resist it. They may dislike it in the moment. But deep within, the soul recognizes something rare: a person who does not bend their truth for the comfort of approval. Being firm is not about dominating another's will. It is about honoring your own. It is about valuing your own life force, your time, your path. When you are clear, others know where you stand. The games dissolve. The guesswork ends. Your very presence begins to command a quiet respect, not because you demand it with force, but because you embody it in stillness. There is a silent power in the person who can speak directly, with no intent to harm, but also with no fear of another's temporary discomfort. They do not speak to please, they speak to clarify. They do not speak to control. They speak to free both themselves and the other from the weight of pretense. Such a person brings a kind of peace into any space, not the false peace of avoidance, but the deep, resonant peace of truth. And truth, even when it shakes the small self, always calms the soul. You are not responsible for another's reaction to your truth. You are only responsible for delivering it from a place of awareness. Speak with presence, not with the storm of emotion. Be rooted in what is real, not in what is easy. The more you walk this path of clear, seeing, the more you will discover that firmness creates the space for deeper connection. It removes the burden of pretending. Do not dim your clarity to avoid a reaction. To be firm is not a violation. It is a service. It serves truth. It serves growth. And a clear voice, flowing from a still mind, can be a beacon of light in a dark and noisy world. There is no greater offering than this. At times, what wears the face of kindness is truly fear, cloaked in a soft garment. You say yes, while your heart whispers no. You remain silent while your spirit longs to speak. You tolerate what feels heavy in your bones, or to maintain the image of being a good person. But when this softness becomes a habit of surrendering your truth, it ceases to be kindness. It becomes a source of harm, not only to yourself, but also to those around you. When you allow toxic patterns to continue without a word, when you offer forgiveness without consequence, when you absorb disrespect, instead of mirroring it back with clarity, you are not preventing a storm, you are feeding it. By being soft in the face of what is wrong, you give it your silent permission to continue. And what you allow, you condone. What you condone, you become a part of. Some will see your silence as agreement. They will read your softness as weakness. and take it as a sign to push further. This is not because they are evil. It is the nature of an unchecked energy to expand. A weed in a garden, if left untended, will eventually choke the life from the flowers around it. Your reluctance to confront may feel peaceful today, but it plants the seeds of deeper damage for tomorrow. True peace is not the absence of confrontation. It is the presence of clarity. When you avoid the necessary conversation, when you excuse patterns of manipulation to keep a calm surface, you are creating a deep and unseen chaos. This chaos infects you, your relationships, and the very air you breathe. That which you do not confront will continue to corrupt. You must understand that not all discomfort is an enemy. Sometimes, the most healing action you can take is to draw a line in the sand and say, with a calm heart, no more. This is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of wisdom. It is the wisdom to know when softness has crossed into enabling, and when strength must be invited to take its place, to be firm, to be clear, to be honest. These are not acts of aggression. They are acts of spiritual cleansing. They clear the air so that truth can breathe again. If your gentleness is protecting a state of imbalance, then it helps no one. You do not save people by allowing them to continue hurting you. You only deny them the chance to see their own reflection. Growth often begins at the point of resistance. One must feel the boundary to know it has been crossed. When you stop shielding others from the consequences of their actions, they are finally given the gift of facing themselves. So look closely at how your softness is spent. Does it create healing, or does it enable harm? Does it flow from a well of strength, or from a spring of fear? You are not made to be a sponge for the toxicity of others. You are made to be a mirror, reflecting truth even when it is uncomfortable. The world does not need more people who are endlessly soft. It needs people who are awake, aware, and strong enough to say, this is not aligned with truth, with calm, with clarity, and with courage. There is a deeply held belief that to be spiritual means one must endure all things. That to be wise, one must tolerate injustice, stay silent when the truth is twisted, and allow others to drain the life force from our very being. But true wisdom is not measured by your capacity for endurance. It is measured by your clarity of discernment. It is the ability to see what nourishes your path and what diverts you from it. Tolerance without discernment is not a strength. It is a quiet surrender of your inner light. There is a great canyon between being patient and being passive. Patience is a form of power. It knows the right season for things. It understands the natural rhythm of life. But passivity is what happens when we convince our hearts that to say nothing is the higher path. Silence is a sacred space, but not when it is used as a hiding place from discomfort. Not when it is used to keep an outer peace while an inner war is raging. Sometimes, the most sacred act is to speak a firm word, to turn and walk away, to say, enough. You have no spiritual obligation to accept all behaviors into your space. There is no virtue in allowing disrespect to be a constant guest at your table. Wisdom is not becoming a doormat upon which others wipe their feet. Wisdom is standing so firmly in your own truth that your value is no longer up for discussion. When your energy is constantly being siphoned, when your inner peace is constantly disturbed by the same storm, to step back is not an act of weakness. It is wisdom in motion. There is a quiet ego in the idea that you must endure all pain to prove your spiritual progress. True maturity is not seen in how much you can silently tolerate. It is seen in how clearly you recognize what no longer belongs in your life and how gracefully you can release it. Sometimes, walking away from another is not an act of abandonment. It is the choice not to abandon yourself. So many remain in toxic waters because they fear that leaving will make them seem cold or without a heart. But to choose your own peace over another's chaos is not heartless. It is the beginning of true healing. Not every battle is yours to fight. Not every soul is yours to save. Sometimes the most powerful practice is to step back, not with resentment, but with stillness, and allow life to unfold without your hand in it. Letting go is a misunderstood art. It is often seen as failure. But in reality, It is often the highest expression of wisdom. It is the knowing of when your presence is no longer of service, when your efforts are being wasted, and when your own soul is begging for the space to breathe again. Tolerance, when it is stretched too thin, becomes the very soil in which resentment grows. And resentment is a slow poison to the heart that only wished to love. Do not mistake tolerance for spiritual attainment. Real wisdom knows the power of no. Real wisdom understands the art of detachment. Real wisdom protects its own peace. You were not meant to carry everything. You were meant to carry what is yours. Leave the rest. It is not wisdom to stay in a place where your spirit is slowly dying. Sometimes, the highest truth is not spoken in words, but in the quiet closing of a door. Strength is often mistaken for something it is not. Many imagine it as a loud noise, a powerful force, an unbending wall. But true strength is not about a show of dominance over others. It is a quiet quality that comes from a deep place within. It has no need to shout or defend its own existence. It does not seek the spotlight. It is the stillness far beneath the waves, a grounded presence that is not disturbed by the passing storms on the surface. There exists a kind of power that does not flow through aggression, but through a calm, clear courage. A person rooted in this strength has no need to win debates or raise their voice. Their presence alone is their statement. Like a great tree with roots that run deep into the earth, they can bend with the wind when necessary, but they are never uprooted. This adaptability is not weakness, it is a profound resilience. Many mistake hardness, coldness, or a guarded heart as signs of strength. But hardness is born of fear and old wounds. It is the need to control. Real strength flows from understanding, from compassion, and from a connection to the stillness at your own center. It is entirely possible to be firm without being unkind, to be clear without being cruel, and to hold your own ground without becoming a fortress. Strength is not about building walls around your heart. It does not mean you must push the world away or become numb to feeling. It means knowing who you are, what you honor, and refusing to betray that truth, even when it is difficult. It means showing up as you are, not hiding, not shrinking, not performing. It is presence, not pretense. People who embody this quiet strength are often not noticed at first. They do not demand to be the center of attention, yet when they speak, others listen. They do not force their will, but their choices have a certain weight. This is because their strength does not come from the ego. It is rooted in something far more enduring, in awareness, in integrity, in being fully present in your own life without needing to control the lives of others. You can be gentle and still be immensely strong. You can feel the world deeply and still make choices from a place of power. You can be kind and still hold the sacred space of your boundaries. These qualities are not in opposition. They support one another. The most powerful among us are those who can live with an open heart and a strong spine. They are not thrown about by the winds of emotion, nor do they shut their feelings away. They move through life with both strength and sensitivity in balance. So do not waste your life forced trying to appear strong. Do not cover your natural softness with a hard, artificial shell. Let your strength arise from your truth, not from tension. There is a great power in being both soft and unshakable. The world is in need of this kind of strength, quiet, calm, and true. In this world, it is rarely the soft and agreeable who are truly respected. While kindness is a quality that is admired from afar, it is strength that commands a presence. People may offer a fleeting smile to your softness, but they will lean into your firmness. They will listen when your words come not from a desire to please, but from a place of deep presence. The more you bend yourself to fit into the comfortable spaces of others, the more invisible you become. It is not arrogance that earns respect. It is authenticity held in a vessel of quiet confidence. You can speak with a gentle voice and still carry the power of a mountain. The power is not in the volume, but in the truth from which it comes. When you are rooted in the ground of your own being, when you no longer look outside yourself for validation, your presence begins to speak for you. Others may not be able to name it, but they feel it. There is a subtle change in the dance. You are no longer asking to be accepted, you simply are. This in itself shifts the energy of every room you enter. Most people expend their energy trying to be liked. They over-explain themselves. They give too much. They apologize for their own space, all in a bid to be seen as good and worthy. But this constant dance of self-abandonment never leads to deep respect. It is an invitation for others to take more than is offered. When you do not honor your own boundaries, you teach others not to honor them either. But when you stand firm, speak with clarity, and remain anchored amidst the shifting winds of opinion, something profound changes. Respect arrives before you have spoken a single word. Presence is built in silence, in stillness, in consistency. It has nothing to do with being loud or dominant. It is about knowing where you stand, what you value, and not being shaken. You do not need to fight for your space when you are aligned in your own center. There is a felt difference between someone who performs confidence and someone who simply lives it. One is a house of cards, the other is a mountain. You must understand that seeking approval from all is a trap with no exit. The more you chase it, the further you drift from your own core. But when you begin to honor your own truth, others may not always agree, but they will feel your stillness. They will trust it, even in your silence, because strength carries its own language. Respect has little to do with fear or control. It is about alignment. When your words, your actions, and your inner state all come from the same source, from a stable center within you, that coherence is felt by the world. It signals that you are not easily swayed, that your yes is real and your no is clear. In a world full of empty noise and surface level charm, this kind of depth has a magnetic pull. It does not ask for respect, it receives it by its very nature of being true. So do not confuse being respected with being liked. One may require you to bend into a pleasing shape. The other asks you to stand tall in your own. When you stop being overly soft and instead move from your center with quiet strength, you will be met differently. Not because you demanded it, but because you finally became someone who does not need to be validated to be whole. Each day, life sets before you a series of choices. Many seem small, almost invisible: a moment of silence where a word of truth is needed, a nod of agreement when your heart says no, a smile that covers a spirit in turmoil. But beneath these tiny moments lies a much larger crossroads, a fundamental choice. Will you honor your inner truth, or will you seek outer comfort? One path invites you to stand still in your own clarity, even if the world around you shakes. The other asks you to bend, to shrink, to avoid the friction that is the very signature of growth. Choosing truth is not always a grand gesture. It often looks like a quiet departure, a simple no, without a long story, the setting of a boundary without guilt. These are not acts of aggression. They are acts of alignment. But they feel uncomfortable because our conditioning teaches us to avoid disturbance at all costs. We are taught to be agreeable, to smooth things over, to keep the peace. But a life built upon a foundation of false peace will never know true rest. It only teaches the body how to survive, never how to truly live. Comfort is a powerful siren. It whispers to you, wait, tomorrow you will speak. Next time you will honor your feeling. And so the days pass into years, and you become a carrier of unspoken truths, of swallowed words, of choices made to protect your comfort at the expense of your soul. Over time, this comfort becomes a cage. And the longer you inhabit it, the more it feels like home, even as you feel the light within you growing dim. Truth, on the other hand, is raw. It is not always polite. It does not always arrive at a convenient time. Sometimes it comes like a cleansing fire, burning away all that was false. It may cost you relationships, illusions, and the approval you once craved. But what it offers in return is immeasurably greater. It gives you back to yourself. As you begin to consistently choose truth, you start to remember who you were before you built the many layers needed for acceptance. The memory can be painful, but it is the path to freedom. The discomfort of truth is a passing storm. It stings, it stretches, It burns away the parts of you that were never truly yours. What remains is a version of you that no longer needs permission from the world to breathe. You begin to walk your own path, not follow another's. Your energy becomes clear. Your presence becomes rooted. You may lose the company of some, but you will no longer lose yourself. You must understand that your truth will not always be a welcome guest. Some people have built their comfort upon your silence. They have grown accustomed to your compliance. When you begin to shift, they will resist, but their resistance is not your burden to carry. It is their own invitation to grow. You are not here to carry the comfort of the world upon your shoulders, while your own spirit suffocates beneath the weight. Your sacred duty is only to remain honest with your own being and to live from that place. The rest is not yours to control. So, in every moment of choice, ask, will this choice make me more liked, or will it make me more real? Will it comfort my fear, or will it liberate my soul? Your entire life is woven from the threads of these small, quiet choices. Choose truth, even when it makes you tremble. Because in the end, comfort is a fleeting cloud, but truth builds a peace that is as vast and as unshakable as the sky itself. That peace is not given. It is earned with every brave choice you make to honor the sacred being that you are. There is great peace in being gentle, but gentleness without clarity becomes confusion. Cease being soft to everyone. Instead, become still. Become like the mountain, silent, strong, and unmoving in your own truth. Then, your kindness will have power. Your presence will have weight, and your life will no longer be a reaction, but a conscious response to the great mystery of existence.